Boom! Hey everybody, Jake Perez here, broadcasting live with Onward, my weekly show dedicated to helping ordinary people live extraordinary lives. You can catch me right here live every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, as I speak with some of the world's most interesting people about a variety of topics, all dedicated to helping you change your life forever. My guest on the show tonight is the most positive and one of the most positive and inspirational ladies on the internet. She is a vlogger, motivational speaker, writer, life coach, and the creator of the positivity movement known as TGIT. Having overcome much adversity in her own life, she has now dedicated her life to helping other people live the life of their dreams. Tammy Smith, welcome to my show. Welcome to Onward, Tammy.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jake.
It is my absolute pleasure to have you on the show tonight. I really appreciate you coming on, and we've been talking about this for a few weeks now, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. And hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in.
So in the introduction, I said you were the founder of the positivity movement, TGIT, but I didn't really explain exactly what that is. We all kind of know, or most people know, what TGIF is, but I'll let you go ahead and tell our listeners. I know you've got tons of followers, and I'm pretty sure all of your followers know exactly what TGIT means to you, but go ahead and share with those who don't know. Tell us a little bit about what that is, how it came about, and what that means to you.
Absolutely. Well, actually, it's been 1 year ago. July 16th was 1 year ago that I had a near-death experience. And when that happened, I mean, of course, when you face death, your life changes immediately. And so my life changed overnight. And I realized, how precious life was. And being the 1 year anniversary of that, I literally pondered that so much this year. I sat there and I thought about how I reflected about how 1 year ago I got up and it was a normal day and I went about my normal routine and ran my errands, and then I nearly died. And the next day was totally transformation. Like, I realized how precious life is. And, like, we can literally wake up and just kind of be grumpy and kind of, be grouchy, or somebody cut me off in traffic, or things that annoy you, like your normal daily things. And all of that became irrelevant overnight. I was just like, wow, I'm so grateful to be alive. I woke up and I was grateful to see the sunshine. I was grateful to hear the little birds chirping, to watch them fly. I'm going to cry already. To see a butterfly in flight. I mean, everything. It is so crazy. I think that it's very, very clear to say that it's almost like time stops. It's almost like time stops, and all of a sudden, you're like, when somebody wants to come in front of you, you're like, go ahead, it's fine, come over. Because I'm grateful to be here, so I don't mind. Go ahead, come on over. You can take the lane. I'm just grateful I can be driving today. I'm grateful that I'm here in traffic. So your perspective changes when you literally face death, and that's what happened to me. And it wasn't for a few months after that, I had this whole new perspective on life about not taking anything for granted and being so grateful for everything in life. But it was in like November, so a few months after that experience, that I was actually working out one day at home, and it was a Friday. And so I was like, oh, TGIF, thank God it's Friday. And it was like God went, and he was like, you almost didn't see Friday. Why would anyone wait to be grateful for Friday? He said to me, it's thank God it's today, because today will be all you have. And right then and there, I was like, oh my gosh, What a
Mm,
life-changing moment. It was life-changing. So I hopped on a Facebook Live because I had started doing these vlogs,
sure.
and that had become like my thing, to share positivity and to share love and hope with people. And I shared it, and people were instantly like, wow, I resonate with this. I get it.
Mm,
I get it.
mm,
And that's when my baby was born. And that's how it started. And it's just become a life changing phrase. It
mhm.
literally has. Like, it's just amazing. And I declare to be the girl that makes TGIF obsolete. We will change the world with TGIT. That's the goal.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And I
Sure.
know, we've kind of shared off camera a little bit about some amazing transformation that you've seen. You said, and I actually saw your live Friday night, or a part of it, when you were kind of sharing. It was very emotional live. Sharing that you did have that near death experience a year ago Friday, right? And you were, here a year later, you're just so filled with gratitude. Like when I was hearing you talking about all the little things, it's just, that's the word, that just kept coming to me, was just gratitude, right? And that's something that fortunately I haven't really been there in my life where I was facing that type of near death experience. But when you do face something like that in the face, it doesn't really go away, right?
No, it's always with you. Like every day, literally. Like for real, I used to sleep with like my blinds closed and the drapes closed, and I changed. Now my drapes have never been closed ever
Mm.
again, and my blinds have never been closed. They are open. So when I go to sleep, I'm watching the moon and I'm looking out, at the moon and the stars. And when I
Mhm.
wake up, the sunshine. I'm up before that sun because I'm just so excited to wake up and get another day. And I literally wake up, and I promise every single day I open my eyes and I look over to the left because that's where the window is. And I say, good morning, God. Thank God
Mm.
for today.
I love
Every
it.
single day, I am that grateful just to open my eyes, to know that I have one more day to make a difference in this world, because that's what I know I'm here to do. And ironically, I'd had a situation with one of my children that I went through that was really, really hurtful. It was a
Mhm.
really dark time between us.
Mhm.
There wasn't
Mhm.
communication and so forth for a couple of years.
Mhm.
And I had lost my dad, and that was the only like tragic experience that I had had up to that point. And that's
Mhm.
been 10 years ago this year.
Mm.
And I mourn for him like you wouldn't believe, because
Mhm.
I'm a daddy's girl.
Mm.
And I just did. I thought it was the end of the world. And it wasn't until I didn't have contact with my child,
Mhm.
for a couple of years, that I realized that it's so much harder to mourn for someone that's still alive than
Mm.
someone that's passed.
Mm.
Because my dad is gone. I couldn't
Mhm.
get him back. But I had
Mhm.
a child out there that I couldn't contact, that I
Mm.
couldn't be in touch with. And that was
Mhm.
the hardest thing ever. And
Mm.
so one day, I went through this whole thing where I was just like questioning God, searching, asking God, why does this have to be like this? And
Mm.
I literally was laying in her room on this big
Mhm.
rug. I made it into this like meditation prayer room
Mhm.
because that was such a source of pain for me. That was her room, and she was gone. So
Mhm.
I tried to make it into like a healing room where I could just go in there and pray. It was like my private space, like a sacred
Mhm.
space.
Right.
And one day I was literally there on my back on this rug and just looking up and crying and praying. And God spoke to me, and I haven't shared this much with the world or many people, but I'm going to share it here because this is what happened to me all these years ago.
Mhm.
And so I was there praying, and I was like, oh God, why? We all do that. We all go through our own things. I shared today on my Facebook Live that if you're alive, you've
Mhm.
had a traumatic experience, whether it
Sure.
be a relationship or anything.
Mhm.
like job loss or career change or moving, having to move. Like we've all been through a traumatic experience. If you're
Sure.
alive, you just have. We've all been through painful things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, a lot of times we question God and say, why, God? I don't understand this. Why? And that's what
Mm-hmm.
I was doing. And
Mm,
he spoke to me and he said, I created you for a purpose. And that purpose is to be a light to the world. You are
mm,
here to help heal other people. And
mm,
he said, I created you for a specific mission, but there's one deal. And I was like, what? And he said, I don't force a mission on anyone. You
mm,
have to choose it. He didn't tell me what the mission was other than helping hurting people and to be a light and to help heal people. That was it. No
mm,
details, nothing like that. And he
mm-hmm.
said, will you accept your mission? And I was just sobbing. And I
Mm,
said, yes, God, because I trust God. I
sure.
trust him with everything. He's the creator of all. If I
Mm-hmm.
can't trust God, I can't trust any human.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no problem saying, yes, I will accept the mission. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know details. And it wasn't until the day after that near death experience and I was coming home from the hospital that I was like, I know my mission.
Mm,
I will take the pain and not let it be in vain. I'm here to help others. I knew
mm.
then. It was just like, that, I don't want to sound so cliche and stupid, but you see these little cartoons where they're like, like a little angel or a little light goes off or something. But
Right,
that was
right.
my moment. I knew then, I was like, wow, okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if he had told me you're going to have to go through A, B, and C to get to D,
Mm-hmm.
if he had told me that day, I would have said, no, I
Mm,
don't want to go through that. I don't want to go through
mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
I liken that a lot, not saying that Jesus didn't know what he was going to go through,
Sure.
but even he said, if it would be possible, take this cup from me.
Sure.
Even Jesus, the
Mm-hmm.
Son of God, said,
Mm-hmm.
"Can you take this cup from me? Nevertheless, not my will, but thine."
I love it.
And so it happened. And he became, the Messiah that gave his life for the world. And so we're supposed to look at Jesus as our role model and to be like
Mm-hmm.
him, to intimidate him, to be like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought of all of that whenever that happened to me. I was like, oh my gosh, look at what he had to go through to change the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he was born for that reason. And so I knew that day, oh gosh, I have a mission and
Hmm.
I'm going to do this. I am going to do this. And that was it. I started getting on Facebook Live. I did not know what I was doing. I still don't. I
Just gotta hit
still
that
don't.
button and go,
I
huh?
trust him daily. But literally, he will just speak to me and say, here's what I want you to talk about. And I'll say, okay, live. I don't think about it. I don't write anything down. I don't script anything. He usually gives me a scripture that he bases everything on for me. And I just share my heart. And I'm very transparent. And I've been on Facebook Live with no makeup, with not even brushing my hair. And then there are times when I'm cute. So I'm just real. I don't care. If he says get on, I've pulled my car over at gas stations, parking lots. I don't care. If he says, I need you to pull over right now and here's what I want you to talk about, I do it. I'm just like, okay.
I love it.
So
So the pain and the hurt and the pain and the hurt that you've experienced, I mean, we don't ever want to go through that stuff, right? The pain and the hurt and the sorrow, whatever, the experience that you went through, we don't ever want to go through that stuff. But, if we can turn around and God can use that for good to help people, right? I mean, that's what it's all about.
that is what it's all about. And as a matter of fact, today on my Facebook Live, I had a friend of mine comment and say, I often see sadness in your eyes and your pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And at times I hear like this pain in your voice when you speak. And so I addressed that today on my blog, and I said, yes, because I've been through hell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have
Mm-hmm.
been through hell.
Mm-hmm.
But God showed me the scripture, that he says, I will give you beauty for ashes, and I will
Mm,
give you joy for mourning. And, you will heal people because of what you've gone through. And
mm.
I was just like, I was crying my eyes out reading that today. And I was like, yes, you will hear pain because I'm real. Because
Mm-hmm.
for so many years, Jake, I lived with a mask on that's not a COVID mask. I
Mm-hmm.
lived with an entire facade. I
Mm-hmm.
lived where I tried to show my community that I had this perfect life. And
Mm-hmm.
today, like I shared, you don't have a perfect life. Not you,
Mm-hmm.
not me, no one.
Sure. Right.
No one has a perfect life. And yet, so many people try to, you know, show that they have this perfect life and that everything's great and everything's fine. And
Mm-hmm.
one time, somebody had asked me, a local person said, but Tammy, you always had a smile on your face and you always posted positive quotes. And so I posted this. It was my own quote.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I used to post positive quotes to survive. And now I post positive quotes because I survived.
Huh. I love
And
that.
so many people thought, oh, she's being positive, she's sharing all this stuff. They didn't realize that all those years, that quote that I posted was for me to get through that day.
Mm.
It was my quote. It was like, I need this to get through today.
Mm-hmm.
I need the hope. I need this. But
Mm-hmm.
now I did survive. And so
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like 5 positive quotes a day on my page. Wake up, all the time. It's constant
Yeah.
because now that mission wasn't about me ever. It was about
Mm-hmm.
me going through the experience so that I knew how to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
I have literally sat in a support group where I saw a woman come in and say, I haven't been out of bed for 6 months.
Wow.
I've just been watching Facebook. I've just been trying to get through my days with social media. And again, it was that moment where
Mm-hmm.
God was like, this is why you're vlogging. She's one
Mm-hmm.
of the reasons. And I was like, I get it. I get
Mm-hmm.
it. It's for those
Mm-hmm.
people that have no hope.
Sure.
It's for those people because they're out there.
Yeah.
And there are no coincidences, Jake. You know this.
Sure.
Everything happens at the right time, the right place. I don't know. What in the world? Oh my
God's
goodness.
calling.
Sorry. Sorry. It was my daughter's grandma, her Nana. I'm sorry, Nana. I'll call you back.
The magic of live broadcasts. I love it. I
I
love
hope
it.
she's okay because that never happens.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. I'm
but
I'm hoping with
literally,
you.
yeah, I'm like, Nana never calls. She's in Georgia, so I'm just hoping everything's okay. And she's a two-time
She,
cancer survivor,
she
so
just she just heard you're on the Onward with Jake Perez, and she wanted to call and get on.
hey, well, hi, Nana. We love you. Like you said, such as live, Facebook Live.
Hmm. Hmm.
But anyway, I totally lost my train of thought because I was so
That's
worried
okay.
about it.
That,
Oh
that
my goodness, I'm so sorry.
no, you're fine. I'll just jump in real quick and just say, I came across you because you vlog every day, right? And I've got a lot of friends on Facebook, and let's be honest, the state of the world right now, not a lot of people are posting a lot of content, right? I mean, a lot of positive content.
Right.
So a lot of the content's pretty negative, right? Whether you're for mask, against mask, for this group or against that group, whatever it is, I don't like to get into that stuff because my whole purpose of this show is to bring people together, not to divide people, right? And
Exactly.
I want people to know that God loves them, that I love them, that doesn't matter what you're facing, in your life. Like if you're still alive, it's okay. You can move forward. We can move onward. That's the whole point of this show. And so I love your message. I love what you're putting out. I love, and whether people are responding to your content or they message you directly, you're right. It could be someone sitting in a hospital bed that sees your vlog every day, and it might give them, reason to keep fighting, to keep hanging on, and even get healed, right? I mean, you and I have talked a lot about the power of belief and thoughts, right, to heal ourselves, to heal our bodies. I would kind of like to get into that at some point a little bit,
Sure.
or
Yes.
I guess you've had a little bit of that, right? You shared a little bit of that with me. You had an experience where you had some physical ailments that you felt like were healed kind of supernaturally. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to finish what I was saying.
Sure.
I don't believe in coincidence at
Mm-hmm.
all. I,
Mm-hmm.
I just never have my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that everything happens at the right time in the right place. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I was going with that. Like
Sure.
everything I went through, it's like a Queen Esther thing. You were born
Yep.
for such a time as this, for this moment.
Yep.
And that's what I feel like happened to me. Like TGIT was born because
Mm-hmm.
of God, because He gave that to me. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, COVID happens and we're
Mm-hmm.
totally isolated. And I cannot tell you how many, I mean, I get hundreds of messages a day. I was
Mm-hmm.
literally blocked on Messenger last week for replying
Mm-hmm.
because that's just a fact. Like I'm trying to reply to everyone and then they blocked me. And I was like,
They thought you were spamming somebody, huh?
yeah, they thought I'm spamming people. And I'm like, oh, no. I'm just talking to the people that are messaging me.
Mm-hmm.
And a pivotal moment for me, I'm going to say this, a pivotal moment for me about my Facebook Lives was I literally thought, who am I? No one wants to hear from me. I'm just a country girl from Southeast Arkansas with no formal education. I'm no one. I'm no one. I'm a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a man write me and say, I was about to commit suicide, but your Facebook Live popped up out of nowhere. And because of you, I'm alive. I didn't commit suicide because of you, Tammy.
Wow.
And I was blown away. I was just crying and I was like, wow. And I was like, I'm so grateful that I was there, that I did the Facebook Live. But yet I still need you to reach out, for professional help.
Mm-hmm.
And he did, and he stays in touch with me. But he was the first, he wasn't the last.
I love
There
that.
have been countless messages since then of people saying to me, I was suicidal and your Facebook Live helped me. It saved me. And I'm like, it's nothing but God. I give him all the glory, all the credit, because like I said, I'm no one. I'm just a girl from Arkansas. I'm nothing. But it was because of those messages that when God tells me, do a Facebook Live right now, pull your car over and do it. And I'm like, okay, because there could be a blank out there again, that person that needed that. And so that became like even more powerful to me. And that's why I don't hesitate to do a vlog. I don't hesitate to say what he tells me to say, because I am all about that one person that could be out there. So my message became even more relevant during COVID because so many people, like the girl at a support group, hadn't gotten out of her house in 6 months, but now most of us don't get out of our house hardly at all.
Right.
I mean, everybody has been isolated and so many people are depressed. And so I'm so much more, like just wanting to be present and say, okay, God, what today? What do you want me to say? Because I will say whatever you want me to say and I will do it. And I literally had a friend write me today. She's on Snapchat. She's a friend from my hometown. And she was like, Tammy, I'm off Facebook. I can't take it. It's too negative, but I'm going to miss your conversations. And I was like, wow. It hurts me that she left social media because of all the negativity, but it touched me. She was like, you're the thing I'll miss. And yet we're still in touch via Snap. So, you can still make a difference.
I love that so much. I'm gonna quickly shout out my cousin who's watching from Louisiana, Tiffany. She just said about you, she said obedience like that. She was talking about earlier when when you answered the call, when God, in your daughter's bedroom, and you're crying out to God, and he said, look, I have a mission for you if you're willing to accept it, right? And you accepted that mission. She says that obedience like that is just so hard, right? And because you honored God, and because you accepted that mission, because you accepted that calling, you didn't even feel like, you were up to the challenge. You almost described imposter syndrome, like, who am I that I can go out and change the world? But you've already mentioned, just because of that obedience, right, to God, um, at least a couple that, people, their lives were saved. They were suicidal, and you radically changed their lives, right? And that's two that we know about, two that you've mentioned on the broadcast, but
Minimum
undoubtedly
five that I've had
five,
write me. Yeah,
five. Okay,
minimum.
so five acknowledged people that you've radically saved from suicide, that God has saved through you, from suicide, right? I mean, amazing that's what your obedience resulted in. So I love that, and I'm super proud to have you on the show. I'm super proud to call you a friend of mine. I love it. I love that you answer that call, and that God's doing amazing things.
Absolutely. And I say to this day, if I didn't do another thing after this show today, if I don't do another thing, that was enough. They were enough. They were enough. Like, that's it. I may not own a huge company. I may not be, some crazy celebrity on TV and have a talk show and this and that. But you know what? Those five people, they were enough. And those are the people that reached out to me and told me that a Facebook Live kept them from killing themselves. So if, like I said, even just the first person, if he was the only one,
Right.
then you're right. And Tiffany, you're right. That obedience was worth that to me. That mission was enough if it were just for the first person. I'm so grateful that God would use a nobody, me, to touch those people, because they're precious. They're precious. And I love each and every one of them.
Well, I love that you're humble enough to call yourself a nobody. You've got a huge following, and you're changing lives, and you're doing amazing things. But it just does take that attitude, right, of just humility and obedience to God to really change the world, and really one person can change the world. You've mentioned a lot about God calling you and putting you on this mission. From some of our discussions, this isn't new to you, right? I mean, you've been walking with God for a long time, isn't that right?
Absolutely. You and I shared this story, and I mean, a lot of people may come from a background that their family knew God and that they were raised in church. And that wasn't the case for me. My mom and dad were divorced before or right after I was born. So I never got to see that mom and dad together. I never had that scenario. I just always knew the separate life, the mom and the dad life. But they were always like very loving and both equally amazing people. Both my mom and dad are overcomers in their own sense. But I was just a little bitty girl, and I ran away from home.
Uh-oh. How old are we talking about when you ran away from home?
My goodness, I want to say like 4.
4, okay, like 4 years old. You're an early starter. All right.
Yeah. But here's what's so crazy. I ran away to the church. And I was at a church trying to open the big doors. But of course, it wasn't a Sunday, so they weren't open. And so I'm trying to get in this church, and I was going around the whole church trying to get in all the doors. And these ladies saw me that knew my family. And so they were like, Tammy, come on. And they took me back to my mom. And so very soon after that, this little bus went around, to apartments and stuff. And they wanted to pick up the little kids. And he would bring candy, the little pastor, Second Baptist Church in Monticello, Arkansas. Shout out to the Second Baptist Church in Monticello.
All right.
So co-pastor, like would come around and give out candy on Saturday night and say, I'm going to be here Sunday morning if you want to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was on that bus on Sunday morning and I would go by myself. And I remember going to all the little stuff and making all these little crafts and all that stuff. And my mom was like, I felt really, really like compelled to like go with you. I was like, that's my child and she's going to church by herself. I mean, I'm like, four.
Right.
On this bus. I'm not afraid of anything. Clearly, not many 4-year-olds will get on a bus and just go to church. Well, I did. Because
can I just back up one second? You had never been to this church, is that right?
Never.
Before you ran away, you hit the road, you didn't know where you were going, and somehow you end up at the church, right?
I'd never been to any church in my whole life.
I love it.
Ever.
And so, I mean, look, to me, that's just the Spirit of God leading you there, don't you think?
Absolutely. God was calling me immediately. And that's why I go back to that moment in the bedroom, that mission where he says, I created you for this purpose. And I was like, wow. When I go back and look at all that, it all fits. It's everything that he's saying. No one took me to church. God called me to come to church. So I go to this little church, after I try to get in a church, then I start going to church. My mom comes with me and she gets saved. And then my entire family ended up getting saved. Everybody, my dad, my stepmom, my mom, all of my younger siblings, everybody. And my mom would tell me to this day, he who wins souls is wise. And she was like, you won your whole family. You won your whole family to God. It was because of you. And I'm like I said, I'm nobody. I was just a little girl that evidently God called. And I still laugh about it today. I am so real with God. I talk to him just like I talk to you, Jake. And I was little bitty, like probably 7 or 8. And I've always been a blankie person. I love my blankets. So I would pile my blankets up on my bed and I would cover my head and I would say, hey, God, can you see me now? Can you still see me? I'm that real with God, like I wanted to know, can you still see me? So I don't know. I think he loves just somebody that's real with him, I mean, I just do. So that was my start, and like my mom is an amazing prophet of God. She does periscopes and all kinds of things. And my brother's a preacher. I mean, it's incredible. Like, how far God has brought our family and what a legacy that we have. So I shared with that one day that, don't worry about being religious and legal about things about, oh, you got to do this, this, and that. If God wants you, he will call you. He will reach you. And I'm one case in that point. Like he literally had me run away to go to church. So
I love it. I love it. And so your whole family is kind of came to God through you over the years. God used you as a vessel. He's continuing to use you on a different type of mission right now. But one thing you just said to me that's very interesting is you talked about having a relationship with God that's not very like you use the word legalistic, but not legalistic, right? I mean, not super religious. Exactly. You want to talk a little bit more about that, like the difference between being just religious and a relationship with God? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Like I said, you and I, Jake, are sitting here and we're talking. We are just friends. And we've had phone conversations where we've talked for hours, like you said. We just became immediate friends. And you may have your very best friend in the world, and you can just be open with them. And you can say whatever you want, whether it's being mad or sad or happy. You're real. You're real with them. That's how I am with God. Like I said, I've been mad at God. I've stood in the shower and just screamed and said, why? Why, God? I don't understand why. I've laid face down on the floor. That day that he told me I had a mission, I was on my back crying. Why? I am just real with God. And I'm going to give you guys an example. I have never shared this on a Facebook Live. So I'm going to share it.
Y'all listen up. Here we go. World premiere right here.
Okay, never shared this, but it's regarding my daddy. And so my whole life I adored that man. I thought he hung the moon, and now he sits up there with it in heaven.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I just love this man. Like, there's a picture of me, like, wearing his jeans and putting his belt on when I was about 4, about the same
Mm.
age of running away to the church.
Mhm.
And I mean, I just love this man. And my kids loved him. Like, they were Papa's babies. Like,
Mhm.
he was so close to all of us. But I was always like, well, my dad's not going to church. My dad's not going to church. He's got to be saved. I can't let him leave this earth and not be saved. So
Mhm.
I would write letters to him and just tell him, this is what you have to do to be saved, blah, blah, blah. The legalistic part, I'm being honest.
Mhm.
And, he would call me and say, hey, baby doll, that was his name for me. I got your letter,
Mhm.
and God and I are great. Like, we
Mhm.
talk, and like, I go out in the woods and I deer hunt and all of this, and I talk to God. We're good. And so one time he came to visit me. I was living in Florida at the time.
Mhm.
And he was like, let's go to church, baby doll. And I was like, all right. And
Mhm.
so we went to church, and it was like on a Wednesday night instead of the traditional Sunday. It was a Wednesday
Mhm.
night.
Mhm.
And they sang Amazing Grace. And he stood up and he was like raising his little hands. Oh my
Mm.
gosh. Sorry, guys. And he was like raising his hands, and they were like, hey, if anybody, wants to dedicate their life to God or rededicate their life, we want you to come to the front. And he grabbed me on my leg and he said, let's go, baby doll. And I was
Mm.
like, so he and I walked down there, and he's just crying and he's just praying. And I was waiting for someone to come and pray like a sinner's prayer with him, and that didn't
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm.
And so we left, we went home that night, and I was disappointed. I was like, but they do this every Sunday. They do it
Mhm.
every Sunday night. Why didn't they do
Mhm.
it tonight? My daddy was
Mm.
here. I've been
Right.
praying for years for this moment. Why
Mm.
didn't they pray the sinner's prayer with him? He was up
Mhm.
there with his little hands raised. And
Mhm.
I was upset. I was upset. So everybody went to bed, and I'm just like praying and I'm talking to God. And I was like, God, why? I don't
Mhm.
understand. I have done everything in the world to bring this man to God. And then I have the opportunity. He's ready. His heart's ready. And nobody prayed with him. And
Right.
I promise you, he spoke this to me. Don't get legalistic on me.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, what do
Mm.
you mean? And he said to me, I said, whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. He called on me, and he is saved.
Huh.
Wow. And that was a huge, huge moment for me to realize that we are the ones that get religious. We are
Right.
the ones that get legalistic. That man opened his heart to God and called
Mm.
out and
Mhm.
raised his hands to God, and God took care of it. And
Mm.
I was forever changed from that moment about how a relationship with God works. I was like,
Mm.
uh, we get way too legalistic. We want to go through A, B, and C, and God says, forget all that. I'm God.
Sure. I love it.
Whoever calls on
We
the name of the Lord will be saved.
Yeah, so we as humans, we as people, we like to have blueprints and
Yeah.
steps, and you do A, B, and C, and you're going to get X, Y, and Z, right? We love that, but even Jesus, looking, you mentioned earlier that he is our example, right, and how we should do things, and if you look at the miracles that Jesus performed when he was healing people, he did it in so many different ways, and I think he did it that way just to prove that exact point that, you know what, let's not put God in a box. There's not
Absolutely.
a way. There's not a formula other than just to believe, right? It's just believe, and that's what it comes down to.
You're so right. Jesus totally went outside the box. Remember, I mean, the religious people of the day all, questioned him, oh, you say this. Well, what is the right way? And he
Hmm.
would just blow it all out of the water like he did that day with me, with my dad, and
Hmm.
say, that's not the way it is. It's my
Hmm.
way, not
Hmm.
your way, not man's way. God has a way that supersedes it all because he's
Hmm.
God. He's
Sure.
supernatural.
Hmm.
And it's not our place to, put him in a box. And that's why I'm doing vlogs, and I don't care. I'm just
Mhm.
going to get on there and share my heart. And
Mhm.
I really think that's why I love Jesus so much. Like he would go sit with the sinners in the
Mhm.
bar and have wine and the tax collectors. And that's who he called to follow
Mhm.
him. Come with
Mhm.
me. And they
Mhm.
did
Mhm.
because they knew he was real.
Sure. And you know what? I mean, whoever's watching tonight or whoever does watch. By the way, if you are watching live, hit us with the hashtag live, so we can see who is with us right now. And if you catch us later on the replay, hit us hashtag replay later on. But one thing, Tammy, I want to mention about Jesus and doing things non-conventional. For those who might be watching live or on the replay, I don't know if a lot of people realize, but Jesus' very first miracle was turning water into wine, right? At a wedding. His mother comes up and they I'm just super paraphrasing here, but basically they just run out of wine at this wedding, and his mother Mary is concerned. These people, I'm sure she's concerned that they're embarrassed. They don't have enough wine. They want to put on a proper ceremony, a proper celebration. So she says, son, hey, Jesus, like, help these people out. And he actually tells her, hey, look, it's not my time. I'm not. And so she kind of presses him a little bit, and he's like, okay. And he tells, these people there, go get some jugs, fill it with water, and he turns water into wine, right? And I think a lot of times in church, I know you've been in church a long time, so have I, and I know a lot of times people in church start getting uptight. You start talking about wine, you start talking about bars, you start talking about drinking. We start getting a little bit uptight sometimes about some of those things. And in some ways, maybe that's putting God in a box. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I mean, he says, I leave the 99 in search of the one lost. And
Hmm.
that's what I'm here to do.
Hmm.
I mean, I had somebody say to me once, like, well, are you going to be the next Beth Moore? Are you going to be like a Beth Moore? And I said,
Hmm.
absolutely not. God created Beth Moore, and
Hmm.
he only needs one Beth Moore. I'm
Hmm.
Tammy, and I'm here to follow him. I'm
Hmm.
here to imitate him, imitate Jesus. I
Hmm.
was like, I'm not going to imitate anyone else. I'm
Hmm.
real. I'm me. I like my hot pink blingy earrings and all of my bling and all of that. I'm
Right.
just Tammy. I mean, I
Hmm.
just am.
Hmm.
I'm me.
Hmm.
And God is choosing to call me and use me, and I'm grateful.
Hmm.
And I'm here, like I said, to run after that one that will never go in church. I'm
Hmm.
after that one that says, I've been hurt by people in the church.
Hmm.
You know, God could never love me, blah, 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 whatever you're feeling. Like I've been through too much. God could never love me.
Hmm.
Like I said, I'm a nobody. And that's why I think God likes to use nobodies, because he says, there are a lot of people out there that feel just like you, Tammy.
Hmm.
They feel like they could never be accepted. I have
Hmm.
a horrible, huge past with all
Hmm.
my mistakes, but yet God still chooses to use me because I'm not the past. I'm the present and what it made me. And I put myself, in his hands for the future. And so
Hmm.
I absolutely agree with that. An interesting fact about the wine at the wedding is this: in the Hebrew tradition, the best wine was served first because then
Hmm.
you would get your little buzz. The cheap wine was brought up because then nobody knew the difference.
Right, right, right.
But in that moment, that first miracle, they said, why did you bring out the best wine last? And
Mm,
that's Jesus for you.
I love it.
The best was served last because that was his. And I
That's
just
awesome.
love that about Jesus. He's like, I'll take the nothing again.
Hmm.
I'll
Hmm.
take the nothing. What was supposed to be the worst part of it, I'm going to transform that and make that the best. I'm all
Hmm.
about that transformation and him using the nothing, the water,
Hmm.
to become
Hmm.
the best.
I love that. I love that. My hair girl just jumped on who cut my hair yesterday. No, Brittany, I'm not pulling my hat off right now. Maybe some other time. She wanted to see the hair, but um I love that, Tammy. So I mean, I've actually, I mean, I'd like to get in a couple of topics that we've talked so much about the importance of Jesus in your life from when you're a young girl to even now in your whole life, and the fact that you have a really solid relationship, with him, that's not just religious. It's just a friendship, right?
Yes,
Um, and but at the same time, I think so many people look at Christianity and they think it's got to be a certain way, right? And I know personally, I'm gonna speak for myself here, and maybe I'm talking to somebody out there, but some of the best conversations I've ever had about God were sitting by a pool at night, drinking beer or wine or whatever it might have been, having a good old time, just loving Jesus, talking about God. And so I mean, I don't know, it doesn't just have to happen in church on Sunday morning, right?
I agree. You're going to make me cry because that's true. I mean, the real people, you don't, everybody can be in church and that's great, but
Hmm.
you don't have to be in church. Like I was
Hmm.
at the beach a week ago and somebody asked me, do you go to church when you're down at the beach? And I said,
Hmm.
yeah, look over my shoulder. I'm at church. This is church because church is everywhere that you can be, in communication with God, where you can communicate with him and talk to him. So I'm in constant fellowship with God all
Hmm.
the time. Like I said,
Hmm.
the first thing I do is wake up and talk to him, and the last person I talk to is him. So
Love
yeah,
it.
my church was the beach. Right
Hmm.
now it's here.
Hmm.
We can't all go to church right now, and that is a fundamental part of sharing the Facebook Lives and what we're doing right now because we can't just walk into church Wednesday night. And
Hmm.
I think that that's what God is showing the whole world right now. You do
Hmm.
not have to be in a building to
Hmm.
talk to me.
Hmm.
It's about that relationship. It's a heart thing. It's a
Hmm.
heart thing. It's a communication thing above
Hmm.
all, the
Hmm.
communicating with him in the heart
Hmm.
because he is not found in a building.
Hmm.
This is the temple of God right here. What you're
Hmm.
looking at, you, Jake, are the temple of God. I'm the temple of God. And everybody out there, that's it. He is
Hmm.
here. And
Right.
so that's what I think the changes that he's bringing. I think that he's as tired of religion as we are, of,
Mm.
the fakeness of just people showing up to be seen.
Right.
It's not about that. It's not about, hey, I go here, so support my business because I go to your church. It's
Mm.
about, I'm real. It's
Mm.
about, I care about people because Jesus is in the people business. He's not
Mm.
in a building business.
Mm.
And that's the fact.
I love that. One word that you said earlier, I want to kind of come back to it was the word supernatural, right? And the idea that, again, we're kind of talking about getting away from the idea of religion, and we're talking about relationship, and I've had my actual pastor I had on this show a few weeks back, and we talked about a book called The Fourth Dimension. We talked about basically changing your life through prayer. You want to talk to us a little bit about that connection, and I mean, have you seen things in your life change through supernatural means?
Absolutely. We'll go back to that healing thing. We had talked about that. I used to have this severe back pain. Whenever I was 18, I had a
Mhm.
car accident on the island of Guam. And
Hmm.
the doctor told me then, do not ever try to get pregnant because if you do, you will be on bed rest the entire pregnancy. So it's
Hmm.
in your best interest to never have children.
Hmm.
Okay.
And
And
had you had any children at this time?
no, 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 no,
Okay, you
no.
had none. Okay.
No, I was 18. I looked right at him. I wasn't even like, in church or practicing my faith or anything. I looked right at him and I said, I don't receive that. I don't receive that. I will be just fine and I will be healed. And he
Mm.
was just like, well, I'm a doctor. I know best. And I'm telling you. And I said, no, I don't receive that. I mean, I just refuted him. I refuted those words spoken over me immediately.
Hmm.
So I wish I could find him today because I am a mom of six.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Six. I'm a mom
I
of six. That's
yeah,
crazy.
I follow your stuff, so I knew you had six children, so I knew the punchline, but
Yeah, you
yeah,
knew.
I knew the punchline, but I'm sure that's a big surprise to a lot of people watching tonight.
Yeah. So I had six children and I had my first at 20. So that's coming up on, that time. Like she's about to be 26 and I'll be 46. But yeah, I mean, I never had issues. I never had any problems. And my smallest baby was 7.5 pounds. My biggest was 10 pounds.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
So faith, they say that faith is calling things that are not as though they are, right? You're familiar with that phrase?
absolutely.
And you and I have also talked a little bit about visualizing, and I'm very interested. I mean, I'm 100% Christian, as you are, but we've also discussed some things like visualizing, meditation, and kind of how that ties into prayer and believing God for things. And I feel like sometimes when we start saying the word meditation or visualization within certain church circles, sometimes some people think that's a little taboo. I mean, you want to talk about the
Sure.
connection maybe that the what the Bible says about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. A lot of people will say, oh my gosh, if you say meditation, that's new age. I would encourage you to read your Bible because King David mentions meditate or meditation more than any human I've ever known. It
Hmm.
is over and over and over. I meditate on your word day and night. I meditate on God. I meditate on things above. You meditate, that's what you ponder, that's what you go over and over in your mind with. And
Hmm.
so meditation, can be many things for many people. It can be something you just recite, which King David said, I meditate on your word day and night, morning, noon, and night.
Hmm.
And so you can recite the word over and over and over. And I believe in the power of the spoken word, which would also be known today as an affirmation. You can
Mm.
take a scripture and you can place that, on your mirror and you can say that scripture over and over and over. And what
Hmm.
God showed me was the power of the spoken word comes from Him, not from man.
Mm.
Whenever He created the earth, He said, let there be light. He spoke it. He didn't create it with His hands, He
Mm.
spoke it. Let there be light, and there was light.
Mm.
He spoke it into existence. And I
Mm.
think that's a beautiful thing. Now, on a second note, the thing he formed by his hand was his greatest creation of all, man.
Mm.
His love, his divine creation, his thing that he loved the most, he did form with his hands, but he
Hmm.
spoke everything else into existence. And we are to imitate God always above anyone. Don't
Hmm.
imitate a pastor or a
Hmm.
person, an author, anybody like that.
Hmm.
Always imitate God. Look to the word and you will find everything you need to know. It is our greatest instruction. And so I do ponder that. I do meditate on that. That's what Mary did whenever the angel came and told her, you're going to give birth, and you're not going to know a man.
Hmm.
She pondered that. She meditated on that. And it
Hmm.
happened. I mean,
Hmm.
it happened. So I believe profoundly in affirmations, in speaking things, in visualization, and all of that transformation. And it is all totally biblical. Every
Hmm.
bit of it, like we have to look to God and we have to look to the word, and it is all right there. Every
Hmm.
bit of it.
Hmm. I love it. I mean, the Bible tells us that life and death are in the power of the tongue, right?
Absolutely.
And you in the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis, you talked about the fact that that's how God created, right? He
Yes.
spoke. And so we're both coming from a Christian worldview, but whether or not people align with our theology or not, you don't have to believe in gravity to fall off a cliff if you step off a cliff, right? There are certain principles that God used to create the world and to create things, and sometimes people debate, God versus science, right? And I think a better thing is that God created science, and science explains God. Even if science doesn't believe in God, all science is doing is explaining the principles by which God created everything.
I agree with that completely. And as I said, like I went through my own healing transformation where I had that back injury, and
Hmm.
it was, like reopened, so to speak, whenever I was a letter carrier and I had a really bad fall. And so I went right back to that back injury, and they were like, this is an old injury that's renewed. And I was like, you're right, it is. And they were like, you're never going to be the same. And I said, I don't receive that. I just don't receive that. I am quick about coming back with the word, like you're saying, with saying, I don't receive that. And like, negating those words spoken over me, it's negative. And if you absorb it, you're going to, accept it. And I was quick to say, no, I don't receive that. I'm going to be just fine. And I went from, as you and I talked about, taking, 6 Tylenol a day, 6 Advil a day, both. So about 12. I would wake up popping them like candy. Ooh. And all the day just hurting. And then I just took that and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I decided to be done. And you know what I did? I have this major back problem. I started working out. Who does that? You have this major back problem, right? I started working out. I started getting in shape. And you know what? I transformed that body that was broken into an amazing body that was strong and fit and healthy, just everything. And I have not taken a Tylenol or Advil ever since.
Years. I love that. I love that.
The only thing I take are health supplements, the vitamins, the supplements, the great things that can help me and benefit my body. That's it.
I love that. And again, there's a couple things we can tie science in. Of course, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of getting too much against Western medicine, although I don't believe in Western medicine personally. I believe in exactly what you're talking about. I believe in affirmations and healthy stuff. And we know that, our best medicine out there is really food, right? Eating the right foods and speaking the right words and thinking the right thoughts. I've had some friends who feel themselves same way, right? They didn't take pills or whatever. It was through affirmations. And I know you shared a little bit with me about you felt like you changed your physical being very much through affirmations. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I actually, and it's still beside my nightstand right now. I looked into the whole thing. I just explored it all. And it was about visualization. Choose, if not a photo of yourself, a photo of the body you want to have. Yep. And so I literally was so out of shape that whenever I first did the workout, I was like, I'm going to die from the warm up. Just starting, I was like, are you kidding me? I thought it was over. It was 2 minutes. And I was like, what? Now I could do that in my sleep. I could literally, nothing. It's nothing. I know it by heart. But literally, I went with that and I took a picture of me whenever I was 30. And I was a mom of 4 at that time. And I put it on my nightstand. So the first thing I would see when I woke up was me at a great physical state. And the last thing I saw when I went to bed was me at a great physical state. And I would literally wake up and say, I am fit, healthy, disciplined, and strong. I'm a size blank, whatever I wanted to be. I'm this, I'm that. And I would literally, after working out, get in the shower and say, oh, as I was washing my body, say, I love my fit arms. I love my biceps. I love my triceps. I love my thighs. I love my calves. They're amazing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I would say stuff. Sure. And they weren't any of that. They were nothing of what I wanted, but I would speak that. And now when I get in that shower, I'm like, ooh, I love my heart-shaped calves. Boom, boom, boom. I didn't have calves before. What are you talking about?
Right.
Now I look down and I'm like, ooh, I love my calves. And I spoke it. Yep. And so here's one thing I added to that affirmation. I shared this with you. I would say, and I would write it down too, because I like to write things down. I'm huge about writing things down and speaking them both. I think they're very powerful. Sure. And so I wrote down all of those things, but then I would speak it. But here's what I added. So for all of you affirmation people out there, it's time to step up your game, because here's what I added to it: or better.
I love that.
2 words. I am fit, healthy, disciplined, and strong, or better. I'm a size blank, 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 or better. I'm this, or better. And that made all the difference, because you know what, Jake? I exceeded the size I wanted to be. It was better. It was better than what I'd hoped for. I was shooting for size blank. It was better.
And it was better. I love it.
It was amazing. It was better because I left room for the or better.
Hmm.
I was just like, or better.
Hmm.
I can be anything.
Hmm.
And it is so true. I believe with all of my heart that the body responds to whatever you tell it to do. The body's a machine. It
Yep.
literally is. And the fuel is right here. The fuel is the mind, the body is a machine.
Hmm.
Whatever you fuel your machine with is what you're going to get. So if
Hmm.
you're telling yourself all day long, which I don't even want to speak it, so I negate it already. I can't do this. I can't do this. Guess what? You can't. But if
Right.
you wake up and you're like, I'm going to work out today and I'm going to nail it, you
Hmm.
will, because
Sure.
you can. You will. You will
I love
do it.
it.
You will
I love
see
it. And you're just speaking in your own life, things that people like Tony Robbins. If you listen to Tony Robbins, his story. He basically had nothing. He was nobody. He was out of shape and had no money, and he just spoke and spoke and spoke all these words of affirmation, exactly like you're talking about. And he's
know that.
possibly yeah, and he's possibly one of the biggest, or one of the biggest, if not the biggest, motivational speakers in the world today, right? And he did it through the same thing. I got into this a few years ago reading a book by John Gabriel, called The Gabriel Effect, about losing weight through visualization. And it's just the same thing, and whether it's Tony Robbins or John Gabriel or whoever it might be, we're talking about the same principles that God put into place, right? Whether we're talking about faith, or if we're talking about science, and we're saying, in science, they believe there are thousands of papers published about the placebo effect, right? Where they give people a sugar pill and tell them this is supposed to heal whatever ailment they have. And because people believe in the pill, it heals them, and it's nothing but a placebo. It's just a sugar pill, right? So whether we believe it's this, that, or the other, it's a principle that God put into place, and our words become a reality, our thoughts become our reality, the things that we say and speak and meditate on and visualize become our reality. So one of my big goals of this show really is just to tell people, look, and you said this, and this I'm bringing this back to your whole TGIT concept, is that whatever has been our past does not have to be our present. It does not have to be our future. Sometimes people get stuck and they think, well, I just have bad genes, or everybody in my family's overweight, or nobody has money in my family, or whatever it is.
Right.
That's not a reality that we have to live with. And that's a big, huge message I want to convey week after week on this show, is that we have the ability to create our own reality. And a big way that we do that is with the words we speak, our thoughts, and then our actions that follow. Would you agree with all of that?
Jake, I would say that the Bible calls that a generational curse, and
Mm,
all curses can be broken.
mm,
And I want to reiterate on the affirmation,
mm-hmm,
by stating, read how many times in your Bible that the Father would call his children in and bless them. He
mm,
would put his hand on their head and say, I bless you. And he would speak a blessing over each of his children. And that's what would happen in their life. He spoke it, and that's what happened. And so I believe that is such a great example of speaking things. And that's why I always pray over all of my children every single night.
mm-hmm,
I pray blessings over them. And, you know, my kids, we all had to get tested for COVID this week because they were exposed.
mm-hmm,
And even my child that's not here had to
mm-hmm,
be tested for COVID because she was exposed and she was negative.
mm-hmm,
Everybody around her was positive. Everybody around us was positive, and we
mm-hmm.
were all negative. And I'm
I
like, I
love it.
told my kids, I said, that's because you have a praying mom. That's because
Mm-hmm,
you have a woman of God that prays over you when I wake up and when I go to bed. I pray blessings over them. You have to speak those blessings over your children. I pray for their protection. I pray that their careers are blessed, that their relationships are blessed, that they have everything they need. Their health is blessed.
mm,
That's just what I do. I pray and speak that every day over them. And I believe in that so much. Like the prayer of a blessing over your children I profoundly believe in that. And therefore, if I believe that over my own children, of course I have to believe that over my own life.
Sure.
Whenever I call on those things for God to bless me with, of course I believe, like you said, life and death are in the power of the tongue,
I
and
love
those that
that.
love it thereof. So if you're speaking negativity all the time, it's like you said, it's a law, just like gravity. You're going to get what you're speaking. If you're speaking all the time, I'm this, and it's not good, that's what happens. But you
Sure.
have to break generational curses. Somebody can tell you, you're just going to have this heart issue, or you're going to have this, or diabetes. It's in our family, blah, blah, blah. And you have to stand up and do like I said and say, I don't receive that. I am fit, healthy, disciplined, and strong. I am totally perfect. I am healthy. I tell my kids, like, you can ask any of them. I always laugh and say, I'm going to live to be 120. I'm going to be 120. And they laugh. They're like, if anybody's going to do it, it's our mom. She's going to do it. Because
Sure.
I believe what I say. I just do. I'm like, I'm going to be 120. I don't know what y'all are talking about. I don't know where y'all are going, but I'm going to be 120 whenever I pass.
I love
And
it.
too.
Well, that's good, because that's going to keep you around a lot longer to keep changing lives like you're already doing. I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but we have been hanging out for a little over an hour right now. For those of you who are still hanging out with us on Onward here on Tuesday night, give me a hashtag still here for all my warriors who are just hanging out with us, still sucking up all this good info from Tammy tonight. But Tammy, undoubtedly and for those of you, if you weren't here earlier, hit me with a hashtag live, or if you're checking it out later on, hit me a hashtag replay. And Tammy, there's, undoubtedly between my viewers and your viewers, a bunch of people are going to see this video. And, I'm sure there are people out there who are going to watch this, especially the state of the world that we're in right now. Like, there are a lot of people struggling. There are a lot of people hurting. There are emotional things, there are financial things, there are physical things people are going through. I mean, if somebody watches this tonight live, maybe they're watching right now, or maybe they check us out on the replay, and they're really struggling right now. What advice would you have for somebody that, they feel like maybe there's no hope, or they don't know how to fix the mess that they feel like they're in? What would be your message to that person right now?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that, as I said earlier, I have a crazy past, but that past doesn't define me. It drives me. And so I would say, above everything, that a lot of people get hung up on where they've been. We let that pull us back. It's like this momentum saying, you're not good enough. Who are you? You're not good enough. You're not worthy. Well, then forget that. Leave that in the past with your past. And that's why the rearview mirror is smaller, right? Okay. Let it drive you. Let it say, oh, that's who I am. I'm stronger because of that. And I can rise above, like the phoenix. I can rise above, and I can fly. But that's where I'm at.
I love it.
I'm fly. I'm going to fly now. Once you rise above that and you shake that off, there's nothing holding you back. There's nothing holding you back except fear. And fear is the greatest thing that we face. But once you shake it off, just like me getting on that parasail last week in Destin, my greatest fear is heights. My second greatest fear is sharks. I would never parasail for all these years. I've been going down to Destin for 26 years, as long as my oldest child. And I would never parasail. I would never get out on a boat. I've never been on a boat in the Gulf.
Wow.
All last week. I was like, I am done with fear. Fear will not hold me anymore. I'm cutting those chains and I'm going forward. And I'll tell you something. There's like 12,000 views on my video of me parasailing right now.
Ooh.
You get on my Facebook and you look, you will see the minute I take off, my mouth is open wide, like, and then the next thing you see is me swinging with my legs in the air. I started swinging. I never felt fear, ever. I was going, woo, the whole time. I was in, I was so excited. I was so happy. I slayed 2 fears in one moment like that. So I would say to anybody out there, slay your fears.
I love
Just
it.
go for it. Just go for it. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. And that
Mm,
fear, once you face it, once you step out, it's nothing. The minute I
mm,
put my foot on that boat, it was gone.
mm.
I didn't even care about parasailing. I was like, I just accomplished such a great thing by getting on this boat and being out here in the Gulf of Mexico. So slay your fear. Do it. Just do it. The next thing is going to be skydiving.
Okay. All right. I love it.
Want to go?
Um,
Let's go.
yeah. It's definitely on my list. I think they do it down in Galveston. That's not too far from where I am. The skydiving is definitely on my list. There's no doubt about it. So I love it. Tammy, you shared, on your live Friday night, you had a near death experience almost a year ago, and as scary as that was, as terrible and traumatic as that was, you turned that around, and I've heard it said many times that our mess is our message, right? So, people out there tonight, if you're going through a real mess, you don't think that you can overcome the mess that you're going through or the situation that you're in. um, you know it's actually an opportunity. You actually can get through that mess, and not only can you get through it, but it's going to make you stronger. And it's that mess that you're in right now is the very thing that you can turn around and use to change other people's lives as well, right? I mean,
And the last thing I would say is just that, you have a choice. I could have chosen to let that thing destroy me and be like my friend that was 6 months in her bed and not coming out of her house.
hmm
Or I could get on a vlog and decide that I'm going to be an overcomer. And that's what I chose. And
hmm
so, what I would say to everyone out there listening, if you're here, if you're listening, if you're breathing, if your heart is beating, you're here for a reason. You have a cause. You're here still because God has something for you. If you're on this earth, He's not done with you. So just ask Him. And I would say that to you. Just lay down tonight and ask Him, God, what do you want me to do? And just ask Him like that. Don't try to think of some formal prayer of, all these things that we try to do, some recited prayer. Be real with God, and He'll be real with you.
Wow. I love it. I love it. And I think I'm going to wrap with that because there's nothing more we could say that's going to top what you just said right there. That's pretty amazing. If you guys are not following Tammy, um, go to her personal page. Follow. She's got a business page. Follow Tammy. She will be in your Facebook feed every day, couple times a day. If you're feeling down, she'll pick you up. She'll encourage you. She's on there every day. She's got a tremendous following already. She's on a mission to change the world, to help heal broken hearts and mend people who are just broken and hurting. And she's already doing an amazing job of that. So y'all go and follow Tammy. She's doing an amazing job, and I'm proud to call her a friend. And Tammy, it's been so good hanging out with you. I appreciate you coming on my show and coming on Onward tonight and hanging out and sharing your message, sharing your story with all of our viewers tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for your show and for your mission because you are changing lives as well. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Tammy. It's been really nice hanging out with you. So you guys go follow Tammy. Keep watching the show. I will be live tomorrow night. I'm normally live every Tuesday night, but I have a special show tomorrow night on Wednesday. So I'll be right back on again here tomorrow night. A little bit of a different topic. So if y'all want to jump back on 7 p.m. Central Time tomorrow night, come check me out. Otherwise, Tammy, you have a wonderful evening. Thanks again for hanging out with me.
Thank
Y'all have
you.
a wonderful evening, and good night, everybody.